You're hot. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Convo Couch. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Oz, he does have those overalls, especially on a Friday. He is on the ones and twos. He's got the good hat that needs like the fish hook, fam, at the end of the cap. You know what I'm saying? Right over there. The black Convo Couch hat with a nice little thing on the end it needs.
Bam.
Yes, fam.
So I made a post the other day about how my face is it's impossible to keep my face.
Why are we
normal.
talking about this post?
Well, because it's
Look,
you.
keep your Fiorella tweets on your own time, okay? That aren't relevant to the show.
People think that it's fun to make me suffer, for you to make me suffer. That's why I'm bringing it up, fam.
I don't think that's all they think. They think I deserve some of the snarls and the snares you give me, maybe.
Of course.
So,
yeah, you do.
Then you're not listening to the people. They're saying that I don't.
No, they're saying you do. I think it's split. I think slightly in my favor. I think.
No, you'll always have your team fee people. I'll always have my team pasta. The independents are clearly
the libertarians
towards team pasta on this.
The
libertarian independents of our viewership are leaning more towards come on,
of course.
Pasta did not deserve that look that you gave him right there. That's what I'm observing. That's just me though. So
it's just my own personal opinion.
It's my own personal opinion.
Yes.
See?
Yeah.
Fam, I know we're going to get started, but I have to go grab my newspaper in 2 seconds.
Oh my God. Seriously?
I'm a newspaper guy.
This is exactly what I'm talking about, guys. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So extra all the time. And Steve knows what I'm talking about because now Steve has to live with him.
Well, the both of you should be charged with ageism. And
First of all, Steve is almost, okay, he's a little younger than you, but.
Okay, look, the paper is my shtick. I need my shtick. I appreciate and support your shtick. Why can't you support?
What shtick? I don't have a shtick.
You got a little shtick.
What's my shtick?
Like rolling your eyes at me and acting like you're aggravated.
I literally
That's your
do
shtick.
That.
When you get mad at me, everybody know it right now. It's just Fee's shtick. She's not really that mad.
I am literally mad though sometimes.
No, you're not.
Yes,
Stop
I
lying.
am.
You would have dumped me a long time ago if you were mad, fam. You keep coming back for more and more and more. So
it's the kind of shit that bothers me so much. You freaking, oh my God. Somebody's gonna take that out of context.
Yeah.
That's what you like. You like poking the bear. You're like the United States on Russia. And I'm Russia. And you're the US. And you poke the bear. You poke it. It's gonna snarl. Anyway.
No, I'm not poking. That's just my personality. You need to accept it.
No, you sound like Cuomo.
Thank you. Well, I am not. I'm just Italian.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. No, that's not an
First of all,
being Italian.
Cuomo's Northern Italian. That Napoli Don son of a bitch. I'm 61% Southern Italian. Completely different.
No, nobody would believe you just taking a look at you. Just saying.
Yeah, they do. Look at my nose. It's a classical Sicilian nose. Look. Thank you. It's not a Mussolini nose. You got a Mussolini head, Oz.
Fam, can we just take a breather? Focus.
It's Friday. I'm a little amped up. I'm sorry.
I know.
Gomez got me going.
Don't blame Gomez. Don't bring Gomez into this. Gomez is an innocent victim of all of this. You blamed Wyatt before. Now you're blaming Gomez. Leave it be.
Pam, by the way, just so you know, breaking news, the Jets won the draft last night.
The Jets have a Ukrainian flag in their office. Jets suck. I'm sorry.
Dude, they had the Ukrainian stuff down below on the TV screen. It's like the NFL is owned by the government, right? They have exemptions from taxes. They're considered like a non-profit or whatever they are. And they have to go along with everything. So they went hardcore. They had the Ukrainian thing on the bottom of the screen yesterday morning, fam. Yesterday. Yeah. It was pretty bad.
We have a guest coming in, so we might want to get through one section at least. Okay. So I have to announce this. This isn't part of anything, but I do have to announce this.
Whoa, wait. You're announcing now?
What? No, Caleb's.
Okay,
Shut up. You're ridiculous. Oh my God. You are so, oh my God. That was, Anyway, Caleb Maupin Caleb Maupin was banned by PayPal. So was Alan, I don't know how to say his name, McLeod, from Mint Press. And also, our friend Ben told me that their GoFundMe was taken down as well, right? Now, GoFundMe is a company I haven't wanted to use since the Canadian trucker convoy, but it's the easiest. It's what a lot of people use, so I get it. But they took down that too. So Caleb posted, "I am banned from PayPal." And what they gave him was, "After a review, we decided to permanently limit your account as we found potential risk associated with it." Caleb is like the least, he's like the nicest, most non-risky person. "As a result, we can no longer offer PayPal services to you. Any bank or credit card information that's linked to your PayPal account cannot be removed, nor can it be added to another account. You can still log in and see your account information, but you can't send or receive money. If you have funds in your PayPal balance, it'll be held for up to 180 days. After that, we'll email you with information as to how to access your funds." Imagine if you rely on PayPal to get most of your money. What do you do? Mm-hmm. This is absolute travesty. Not new. This happened to Ryan Christian. I know that the Last American Vagabond crew, Whitney Webb, they were all pointing to this. Patreon too. They recently tried to ask her back, and she told them to, go to hell. Like, she said no, she wasn't coming back. But this has been happening to a few people who have been talking about these more controversial subjects that aren't controversial, that started talking about the pandemic, started talking about the election, started talking about, the Great Reset and all of that. And it's interesting because some of the people targeted, the only thing they have in common is that they could be considered pro-Russia, but they're not. I mean, like Russian state, he has the mark of Russian state affiliated media. Mint Press has, the accusations of being pro-Assad and all these other things. So the Daily Beast also just did an article on, smearing Max Blumenthal, smearing Gray Zone, smearing everybody on the, Danny Haifong, everybody on the anti-imperialist sector, mainly Lee Camp. It was mainly about Lee Camp. And Lee Camp
has that article?
The Daily Beast. They just released an article today.
The Daily Smear.
Yeah, the Daily Smear, because they smear anybody like that's a journalist that's saying the right thing or whatever. And Lee Camp, of course, even condemned Russia. He condemned Russia's invasion. He said, he said it as much, and that still didn't stop them from going after him. And here's the other one about Mint Press. Mint Press was also banned from PayPal without any reason. And Narma said, "This is blatant censorship of dissenting journalists and outlets. Please help us fight back so we can continue to expose the permanent war state." And they have their Indiegogo up. So those are the two people you guys can help out, or you guys can at least share what happened. It's absolutely ridiculous. And even if they weren't friends of mine, I think it's wrong that they're getting censored. And I think it's wrong that people are getting smeared and getting, articles written about them that are entirely false. And it's really disgusting. It really is. And this is obviously an attack on dissent, in spite of course, Elon Musk buying Twitter. I just got to point that out, right? Like this is what's happening. Fam, I'm going to go ahead and go into just this first section. If you don't mind.
Yeah, but I just want to say this much too as well. Like,
go ahead.
You can dive into it real quick. But, I was speaking to my mother the other day and I said, "Mom," I said, "God forbid something happens with Rockfin and they turn down the servers." And she's like Parler? I'm like, "Yeah, like Parler." I said, "I'm coming home. Save me my bed." And she goes, "Are you kind of like sensing something, or are you trying to tell me something?" I'm like, "Yeah, Mom, they're starting to pull the plug on a lot of people around us." And this is just simply just removing away a funding mechanism. And like Fam said, can you imagine if that's all, the majority of your money came on PayPal, and now all they're doing is removing the mechanism? I mean, think how fascist and authoritarian that is, that they're removing away a mechanism where citizens can transact and give you funds on. It's beyond, it's scary right now.
Right.
I wish there was more of a pushback, because this is really, really bad. But hey, this is what happens when you let Julian Assange go and you're going to put him in jail for what he's doing. They're going to come after all of us, and saying it's
right.
manipulation and all this bullshit. So, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, because independent media didn't really take as huge of a leap until after Julian. Like Julian was like kind of like the pioneer in a lot of ways of that. And then after, you know, the Bernie thing, a lot more people started coming out with the WikiLeaks. And that's one of the reasons why we're here today is because of people like Julian Assange. And this is something that Misty always points out. This is why I've been screaming about censorship, because look at what's happening. And we're going to talk about the Ministry of Truth. We're going to talk about that because that is a very serious thing. I did a video. I posted a video earlier today about just summarizing pretty much what that is and who's behind it, because the people behind it are extremely nefarious. And it's no surprise that the executive board member is this woman who will show she's an absolute, like, she's posting Bellingcat articles in 2018. So, on top of all of this, so right, we have the whole funding mechanism that's happening, Pasta, where we have people literally on the streets, as you always point out. We have a war machine, though, that's getting very, very wealthy off of this conflict between Russia and Ukraine, this proxy war that the United States is waging against Russia via Ukraine. And the Squat and progressives all voted. Pretty much the entire Democratic sector voted to expedite funds for these essentially Nazis, because that is what's left of the Ukrainian military. And the ones that don't want to be a part of that are either killed or they're threatened. I posted other videos of how they have talked about this. So this is the title of the bill is Senate Bill or SB or S3522, and it's providing for consideration of the bill Ukraine Democracy Defense Lend-Lease Act and for other purposes. And you guys can see the final voting results for a roll call vote. And the Democrats are in Roman, Republicans in italic, independents are underlined. So 220 yes, 205 nays, and there was 4 people that did not vote.
Was it all along party lines?
It was pretty much along party lines. I think there might have been like 1 or 2 Democrats, but I highlighted a lot of the yeahs here because I wanted to point some of them out. You guys can see Bauman, Bush, Castro, Jayapal, Khalili, the one that replaced Tulsi, Rokana, Ocasio-Cortez, Omar, Katie Porter, Mark Pocan, Ayanna Pressley, Adam Schiff for Brains. You have also, I don't know who that is, Lamb. You have Lee, Barbara Lee, Levin, California, Lou. You have Newman, Marie Newman. You got Brad Sherman. You got Adam Smith. You got Solwell, Talib, and the Torreses. You got Wasserman Schultz, of course, and Waters. So
yeah, it's all party lines. All the Democrats, all the Republicans. Not one Republican, you know, crossed across the line. Not one Democrat. Just four of them just abstained courteously. But yeah, I mean, who's the warmongers now, fam?
Right. What is happening, right? And like again, you know, in the Senate you have the usuals like the Mitch McConnells and all of them always being voting for more war in line with a lot of these warmongering Democrats. But it's really strange to me that in this case, it seems to me that the Republicans turned out to be less of imperialists when it comes to at least this vote. So the overall summary of this bill is that, and this bill, by the way, passed the Senate on the 6th of April. So it temporarily waives certain requirements related to the president's authority to lend or lease defense articles if the defense articles are intended for Ukraine's government or the governments of the other Eastern European countries affected by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. For the fiscal year of 2022 and the fiscal year of 2023, an agreement to lend or lease defense articles under this bill shall not be subject to certain requirements and provisions that typically apply to such lend-lease agreements, including a requirement that generally prohibits a loan or lease period from exceeding 5 years. So they're not subject to any of this. So this can exceed 5 years. They're not subject to any sort of process that normally happens. So Biden can just like expeditiously and just completely unilaterally decide, hey, we're going to give this much to Ukraine. Boom, let's pass it through, right? Let's get this through. And it says right here, the president must establish expedited procedures to ensure timely delivery of defense articles loaned or leased to Ukraine under this bill. So this is a must, right? And as I said, it's S3522, and it's an act. And we've talked about that. And yeah, it's called or cited as the Ukraine Democracy Defend Lease Act of 2022. And you guys can see the formal written course of it. And it's pretty much, again, Joe Biden has pretty much full authority to just give this. And they're using this, of course, the fact that it is the invasion of Russia in Ukraine. So
yeah. And, there are all the selling points out there, they're trying to use to sell the whole situation. If we don't stop Putin now, what's next? What NATO country next? Poland, you know what I'm saying? Lithuania, where's he going to go next? Even as far as to say, Russia shares a border with Alaska, the United States and stuff. And like all the scare tactics, we have to stop them now. We have to do this. If we don't do it now, forget about it. We don't need troops on the ground. We just need a bunch of money. It's a Ponzi scheme. They're just literally fleecing the Treasury Department. Instead of giving it to the people, they're giving it to the military industrial complex, because it sure as hell ain't going to our military. The service members and all that kind of thing, because they're left high and dry. But fam, why do you think it is that all the Republicans voted nay, but all the Democrats voted yay?
I honestly think it's about the money. I think they don't see as any sort of gain to be made. They just see it as a waste of money. And a lot of people that are not in like the leadership of Congress, but just people in general who are, conservative or Republican, a lot of them are on the side of not giving money to Ukraine because they see that America needs money, because that's the mentality of a lot of conservatives. Classically, it's like we need to help America, put America first. That's the whole mentality, right? And so it kind of makes sense in that regard. But yeah, it's interesting to me too, because I think I had it in my tweet, but it might be down there. Yeah, I think it is down there. So we can move on, Oz, too, because we already pretty much went over it. We pretty much went over everything. But Republican Congress members like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie isn't a surprise because he's more of a libertarian-minded guy. Yeah. But Marjorie Taylor Greene has defense money. So it's interesting that she voted against the measure. And I'm not saying, all Republicans are all anti-war. I'm saying in this case, they have out-lefted the left in terms of anti-imperialist voting records. And by the way, every time I point this out to AOC's sycophants and all her supporters, all these Bernie progressives, whatever, they never address this at all. They completely just stay quiet. They don't address it. They act like it didn't happen, or they completely say, well, they're just trying to help Ukraine and they just voted through the party lines. This is like a split vote. They didn't need a party line down the line. Like they didn't, like their votes weren't needed. They could have made a statement and said no, and they didn't. Yeah,
they had wiggle room, but you know what I'm saying? But that's the thing. I think the Republican voters are done with like giving so much money. Yeah, you might classify it as the America First kind of thing. But even as a person who's not a conservative, I'm sick and tired of sending money all over the world to propagate war and to help corporations. I'd rather spend that money at home too. So does that make me conservative? No, it doesn't. This is a ridiculous thing. And the problem is that the virtue signaling works on the progressive and liberal voters. You know what I'm saying? They live in this kind of like fantasy land of sorts. So, there's the cloak of virtuosity. Oh, we got to stop the murderous Putin. Oh, he's killing women and children. Well, how about you just look about what happened in 2014 over the last several 8-9 years in the Donbass and what's going on in Syria to this day, and Yemen to this day, in Libya to this day. It's like, the virtue signaling works, and the TDS combined with the CDS has really warped their brains to go complete team sports mentality. Yeah, and it's crazy because we're living in a world where the
establishment made up of the two-party system and people in both parties and the national security state apparatus, the State Department, the Mickey Matt, as Steve and Gloria like to call it, has turned liberals, leftists, who call themselves leftists, right, progressives, all these people, has turned them into cheering for war and cheering for Nazis. And it's crazy that you have somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene and even Crenshaw, I see on the list. Crenshaw, we have here, if you just want to show it real quick, you can see the list. Crenshaw. You got Crenshaw, you got Cawthorn, the one that gets, made fun of all the time. I mean, I know that these people focus on these Republicans, like we don't cover that, where they have like videos of Cawthorn who dresses a girl or whatever. I don't even know. Like this is the things they cover, and I'm just like, what? I don't even. But I know that they get made fun of. But these people voted to not give money to fund like Nazis. So hey, guess what? They've outlefted your squad, your progressives in this vote. And I don't care how you twist it or what you say. I mean, that is what happened, right? That is what happened.
If we're looking at paper, we're looking at numbers, you're damn straight. The only other option, too, fam, is if this is the theater that we sometimes think it is, where Congress is completely bought, it's just the total like, okay, you can all vote no against this because they're going to all vote yay, so we know no matter what. And you can now campaign off making sure you can bring the money home instead of spending it off season. It could be all theater, right? Because we understood that, where the majority lies. So, I mean, I
think a lot of it is, Pasta. I think you're right. I think a lot of it is. Yeah. But I also think there are people that are actually against throwing money to war. And I definitely think Massey is one of those people.
Oh, yeah, those libertarian-minded people?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah. So Nico had a really great tweet. And he said $33 billion to the Ukraine. Oh, he said the Ukraine, Pasta. People can't put food on the table. Rent's gone up. Housing prices have gone up. Raises have almost gone down when accounting for inflation. They absolutely have gone down. We're having supply shortages across the board. We're also having the burning of the random plants. But we have $33 billion to spend on Ukraine, but not U.S. citizens. I mean, it's ridiculous here. And this is the perspective, of another person that I know is not a conservative. But here we go. Like what any normal human being that doesn't even pay attention to politics is going to ask themselves, hey, why are we throwing so much money away into this conflict that has nothing to do with us? It's literally a world away, right? And why is this an important thing? And I think more people are realizing that this is why the censorship has ramped up, because they see that word is getting through independent media. More people are like questioning what's going on, and they're failing with with what you've seen happen with Disney and CNN Plus. They're failing to really continue the brainwashing as efficiently as they used to. So they have to attack whatever is a threat, and that's what they're doing now. They're attacking those of us that are threatening their narrative, and they're going to continue to do that. They're going to continue to vilify every single one of us. And brace yourselves. If you do this work, you do not do this work because it is easy. It is, glamorous, because it makes you some sort of celebrity. You do this work because you really want to get the truth out there. I mean, that's why you should be doing it. And it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get worse, I think, before it gets better.
Ditto. Definitely. Should we read some super rays or just go right into the next section?
No, let's read some super rays because the guest will be on in a couple minutes.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get it going. Wow. Thank you guys so much. 43 people who are hanging out on the Rockfin. Now is that time to share. Like, share, subscribe. Right now, the Rockfin subscription or the Super Ray is the safest way for the time being to send us a few bucks. Thank you so much, everybody who's been helping out, all the Patreons, all the PayPalers, all the subscribers, and all the Super Rays. We love you. And those who just share our videos, you guys are great too as well. Trey Wright, Jolly P, and Kami Goodness, you both are amazing. And I love the fact that he made a Lego characters out of us. You're the fire queen, and I'm newspaper guy, and we're just tearing up Legoland. So I was looking for the Joe Biden Lego character so I could disassemble it.
Oh, I didn't put that video in there today. I should have. The Joe Biden. Did you see the video where he I showed it to my parents yesterday. Where he couldn't even speak, and he was. I mean, it's just every day there's something Joe Biden does, and our friend Terry sent me that meme that I put up. The
fucker upper. Yeah. Jeffrey Smith, pasta. Please do not stop ever. Please keep it going with the newspaper guy shtick.
Is that what he really said? Because I don't have it up. Is that what he
Good.
Really said?
You don't have it up? Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh my gosh.
No, he said please. He said please stop with the newspaper guy.
Oh my God. See, I knew it. You're such a liar.
All right, guys. Team Fee is beating me up. Come on, Team Pasta. Get in there and help him out and say the newspaper guy stands. I just got a DM on Instagram that said, keep it up with the newspaper guy stuff. They love it. AREM, Democratic politicians never line up, one and all, for the win, for anything decent. The Squat, is that their new nickname, by the way?
So Misty called them that a long time ago, and I liked it, and I was like, oh, I like this, and I call them that now forever. So credit to Misty, Winston, comrade.
AREM thinks it's a better name for what they offer or bring. Have obviously colluded to decide that as long as they stick together, they can weather criticism from the principled left and win their next elections, or straight to MSNBC, baby. At Kyle Kolinsky, the Squat are corrupt.
Yeah, I mean, it's midterm season, guys. That's what these people are going to be covering. They're going to be covering the new progressives and all these people coming in that don't pay any attention to foreign policy. Zero. Yeah. And I want to slap myself. I want to go back and be like, the foreign policy should have been our number one thing. And we did ask about foreign policy more than anybody at that time, too, with what we were doing locally, statewide, and then eventually nationally. But it's still like we let it slide too much that they didn't pay enough attention to that. And foreign policy is literally the one thing that to me is just exemplifies really what a country is, how they conduct themselves with other sovereign nations, and how they go around this. And it's never been more obvious than it is now. And especially after going to Nicaragua and going to, the global South and going to these countries and seeing the effects of U.S. imperialism, it really changes how you perceive things from a different perspective, I think. So,
I mean, the whole interesting thing about when it comes to Wyatt the other day on the morning show, and you guys were all getting into it and having a good time, and obviously Wyatt did it another day too as well, where they had a little bit of a back and forth and stuff. It's like, Wyatt's a guy who's traveled. We met in Nicaragua and Honduras observing elections. He understands what type of socialism they have and how important it is. And I'm not out there advocating for any one system. You guys know me. But I mean, when somebody comes and brings a principled point of view, the one that he's talking about, it should be paid attention to. And I understand there's a lot of anarchists out there, Paulie, our good friend, whatnot, who understand this to its core. However, the psychopaths we have running this freaking planet need to be, in my mind, beaten back, stopped, and whatnot. And that's going to take a group effort. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if it's an economic kind of socialism for a certain country it's needed, that should be applauded. When we start getting into people's private houses and homes and what they should think or say or do, that's a whole different story. So, I just love his point of view, because he knows what it's like for, people in Nicaragua and in Bolivia and what they suffered at the hands of an imperialist group. So,
I agree. We have our guests here. Let's go to slide 39. We're going to go straight to section 3.
Should we hold on to these Super Rays till later?
Yeah.
All right. We'll get you back, Super Rays. Hang on in there. Team Pasta, join on in if you got a chance.
Okay, so we have a great guest here, and I'm going to say his name. I'm going to try to say his name correctly. Ube al-Aboudi? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay, good. Ube
al-Aboudi, right? No, al-Aboudi.
Ube al-Aboudi, yeah.
See?
Yeah, okay. Good.
I did good, fam.
You did it very, very well. So I'm just gonna introduce you real quick, and then we'll get to it. So Ube is the executive director of the Bison Center Research and Development Studies, and you were just denied travel by Israeli authorities while you were crossing the bridge to Jordan. You were on your way to travel to the World Social Forum in Mexico, and you were going to travel to the United States to go on a speaking tour, and they denied you travel just now, and they didn't tell you why. Can you tell us a little bit about this, and welcome to the show.
Well, hello, and hello for all of those listening out there, and thank you for hosting me. Today I was traveling. I'm a dual citizen. I'm a US and Palestinian national. Today I was traveling to Amman because we are not allowed to use Ben Gurion Airport, even if you have a second nationality as an American. As Palestinians, we are not allowed to do that.
Wow.
To take a flight, my flight was supposed to leave tomorrow at 8:30 a.m., going to New Mexico to attend the World Social Forum. I was supposed to be part of the Palestinian delegation there, and also take part in the number of panels, but especially the one pertaining secret evidence, civil society, and NSO and mass surveillance. So I was denied. After the trip to Mexico, I was supposed to go to New York and participate in Al-Auda National Conference with the Palestinian diaspora, also to have connections and meetings with the staffers from universities of Columbia, MIT, and others, to coordinate also for the work that Bison Center has been doing with these organizations, with the staffers of these organizations. Today at the bridge, they simply detained my passport. They know that I'm a dual citizen, and I always present both passports at the crossing. They took my Palestinian passport and didn't take my American one. Then they told me to sit around for 2 hours. After 2 hours, an officer came and told me that I am not allowed to travel. I asked for a reason. They provided none. I asked for an official saying that I was being denied travel, and they also refused. I asked to talk to a senior officer to understand the situation. They also refused that. And after several attempts, the security came and just escorted me back to the Palestinian side of the crossing.
Wow. I'm very sorry that that's happening. And it's crazy to me that you being a US citizen, it doesn't matter, right? Like that part to me. So you have a US passport, but even with the US passport, they can still detain you because you're Palestinian?
Well, yes, you basically lose all your rights just being a Palestinian, even if you have a US passport or a British passport or whatever. They don't care. This is an apartheid state. Just being a Palestinian, you are discriminated against. Today, I was denied travel without any court order, without any reason. They did not even explain to me. When I tried to tell them that I have tickets that have cost me actually over $2,000 US dollars in bookings, they totally refused to even listen to that and take that into consideration. You are just dehumanized. I was asking even for a paper, an official paper, that I was being denied to travel, and they provided none of that.
No embassy? Like you can't.
I contacted the embassy. The embassy. The US embassy called me after the effect, after that happened. And I think that one of the main problems that we have is the US is not willing to hold Israel to account to the same standards that they are holding other nations to. I'm sorry to say that, but...
we know that. In fact, they encourage the behavior.
Yes, of course. They support that. Israel could not have continued with its behavior without, especially Western government support for its policies, even if they are vocally sometimes not supporting it. But on practice in the ground, when they are offering military aid, when they are letting them go away, letting them get away with designating human rights organizations as terrorist organizations, when they are not taking positions in human rights violation, this is complicitness.
Mhm.
Israel is an apartheid state. It has been stated by most international human rights organizations. You have Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International has gotten their reports. You have on the Israeli side, B'Tselem and Yeshdin also have gotten their reports out. In the US, you also have the Harvard Legal Aid Clinic with Abdamir also got out a report that describing that this is an apartheid state. And you have also the UN Special Rapporteur on Palestine. His report is describing Israel as an apartheid state, his latest report. So these entire reports are not even taken seriously by the administration. Amnesty and Human Rights Watch are being quoted for violations that are being committed by the Russian regime or by China. For us in Bisan, the US came very strongly when the PA detained me last summer. When in the aftermath of the demonstrations after the killing of activist Nizar Banat, they were very supportive. But when things come to Israel, we just get complete silence. We just get, I would say, complicit silence.
How are your thoughts with the new prime minister? Is it, I mean, we've had situations here where we've had awful leaders. In New York, we had Cuomo, and eventually we got rid of him. But his replacement was so bad, I was like, can we get Cuomo back? The other day I saw the prime minister speaking on TV the other day, and he said some stuff that was just mind-blowing to where the point I'm like, can we get Netanyahu back? What are your thoughts about the new prime minister as far as the relationship now with the Palestinians? Do you think there's any light in the new presidency or the new prime minister, or do you think it's just we're still just going down a bad tunnel?
Well, I think that Israel, even as society, is more and more turning into a fascist society. And this has been done with the encouragement of and support of Western governments. Everyone wanted to get rid of Netanyahu, and they brought a worst version of Netanyahu, Naftali Bennett. The Naftali Bennett version has given the army a free hand on the lives of Palestinians. We are still demanding justice for Omar Assad, a Palestinian US citizen, elderly man, 78-year-old, who was detained, abused, and had a heart attack as a result of the abuse he received. And soldiers just left him tied on the ground and left without offering him any medical aid. We are still demanding justice for hundreds and thousands of Palestinians that are being detained, killed, tortured, abused by the Israeli apartheid system. And the Israeli Prime Minister, current Prime Minister, is quite frank about that. He has given the Israeli army a free hand on our lives as Palestinians. We have seen that in the increased numbers of shootings. We have seen that in the free hand the army is getting while they are abusing Palestinians, and not just Palestinians in the West Bank, even Palestinian citizens of Israel. And this, you can go to all human rights organizations' websites, it's well documented. And for us, I think this cannot also continue without the complicitness of, I would say, even some, what we call it, as progressive parties and organizations globally, finding them quite silent when it comes to the situation and violations committed by Israel. As Bisan, for example, we have a strong cooperation with a large number of progressive activists. Even some of them are even Israeli progressive that are anti-Zionist and anti-occupation, and come out much more strongly than, I would say, even some global or progressive organizations against the Israeli policies.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a little bit of what's been happening recently. There's been more attacks as of recent, and right now it's the last day of Ramadan, if I'm not mistaken, and how that what is happening right now on the ground in Palestine with the recent attacks, and now, of course, Ramadan.
Well, in Ramadan, this is not the last date. I think. Okay. Saturday and it might go on until Sunday also. But in Ramadan, the attacks have increased significantly, especially against Al-Aqsa Mosque and the worshippers going there. We have seen the Israeli army abusing people, women, children that are just going there to pray. We have seen the beatings live, and we have not heard any condemnation of that. Even the US State Department, when they are talking about the violations in Al-Aqsa, they are talking about violence in general. It's not violence if some people are worshiping, trying to worship, and soldiers are attacking them, shooting them, and tear gassing them. And this is not only the situation in Jerusalem. This is all over the West Bank. If you look at small villages in the West Bank that are bordering Israeli settlements or that have bypass roads coming near them, you'll see attacks by violent Israeli settler groups against Palestinians, and you would see zero repercussions for those settlers. They are shooting, they are beating Palestinians, and sometimes while they are doing the settlers, the violations, such as in Hebron, the old city, it has been documented in camera that the army is standing there and protecting them while they were throwing rocks, the Israeli settlers, at Palestinian homes. So this kind of violations, I would say, would get even worse in the near future and in the long run, as long as governments are not willing to act on this, as long as people are not holding their elected officials also to account on their silence of Israeli apartheid policies and violations.
Yeah. You know, Ube, I grew up in South Florida, Boca Raton, which has a lot of big Jewish population. What do you say, Ube, to somebody who says, well, listen, when it comes to that land over there have been Jews there for thousands and thousands of years, and they have a right to that land. What is your pushback to that ideology that they have a claim to that land?
Well, Palestine has always been a country that's open for all religions. There are Jewish Palestinians, and we are proud to have them. They have had their lands, the Jewish Palestinians, but it's not the case when someone is coming from the US, from New York, or from Poland, who has never lived here and taking Palestinian lands and claiming it to be his own through power, through military occupation, and through shooting people. Palestine, I will say, that has never discriminated against people, even back in the 1920s, even before Palestinians were very educated, or Palestinians had a strong national movement. Our national movement back in the 1920s said that we need one democratic state for all that doesn't discriminate against any of its citizens. I am totally with that idea of having no discrimination based on race, based on sex. And I would even say that it was well documented that the early Jewish settlers of the 1870s that have led the Russian repercussion in Eastern Europe, when the Tsarist repercussion were received and treated well by the Palestinian villages and populations. We did not see them even as a threat, and we do not discriminate. What's happening after that is that there's a continuous process of ethnic cleansing. And you know, this term, ethnic cleansing, it was even coined by a Jewish Israeli professor, Ilan Pape, who even could not live and be part of this system anymore. He did his PhD thesis on this and said that there's a continuous process of ethnic cleansing of Palestinians on a historic land of Palestine.
So the Biden administration in the United States has issued another $33 billion in aid towards weapons in Ukraine. Politically, those weapons are essentially going to a large radical sector that's controlled by a lot of Nazis right now in that area. So I just wanted to ask your opinion on when you see this unanimous Western, very superficial, but nonetheless strong support for Ukraine, with the Ukrainian flags everywhere, with with people begging others to have a no-fly zone, which would essentially start World War III, with begging for funds for Ukrainians and talking about how they should be accepted as refugees and how this is so important and that every American must give back to poor Ukrainians. I've seen a lot of Palestinians juxtapose that and say, where is the outrage for the bombings of Palestinians with U.S. funds and weapons given to Israel? Where's the outrage for the bombings of Syrians and Damascus and that constantly happen as well? Where's the outrage for Yemen and Afghanistan? We don't see that same outrage. Just your opinion on that, and why do you think that is?
Well, I think the situation, of course, the first thing I want to express is my full solidarity of the people of Ukraine. They are the lost story in all of this. Normal, everyday people that are being torn apart between two imperialist powers struggling in Ukraine. Those are the ultimate people that are paying the ultimate price. As for the comparison between Ukraine and Palestine, I think Ukraine uncovered the deep racism that goes through Western governments and even Western media. We had reporters coming from major news organizations. I'm talking about BBC, for example, that have come out and said those refugees that are coming from Ukraine are white with blonde eyes. They are not like the people from the Middle East. And when you hear reporters saying that from major news organizations, you understand that this is the elite talking. This is deep racism that's running through the institution and has been actually expressed by the different governments globally. The response in Ukraine has left us actually in shock. Things that we were doing, Palestinian calling for, and being said, oh, you cannot call for boycott, divestment, and sanctions. This will not work. But we're seeing that it's working in the case of Russia. A major world power with nuclear arms, when you're doing boycott, divestment, and sanctions, yes, it's taking an effect on it. We are seeing that policies and tactics that are being used in Ukraine that was being told to us Palestinians, so this will not help. It will not help of having this kind of cutting economic ties, of cutting sporting events, etc. And these same tactics have been used by a lot of people. They even went too far into racism, I would say, cutting, boycotting even dead Russian artists and authors and Tchaikovsky. I was heard that is when you play now Tchaikovsky, then you become supporters of Putin and Russia. Right. Of course, kind of repression, I would say, is part of hypocrisy of global U.S. imperialism. The most evident case of violations of international law is happening in Palestine and has happened after Palestine. We're talking about Libya, Iraq, we're talking about Syria. All of these kinds of interventions have actually contributed to a situation where international law, the right of people for self-determination, the right of protection from an invading power, they have been violated. And it has been violated first and foremost by the US and its allies, its NATO allies. When saying this, I also do not condone or do not agree with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The Russian invasion premise is that Ukraine cannot be a sovereign nation. They cannot decide from themselves what kind of government, what kind of treaties that they are allowed to be part of. And from my own personal understanding also, although that there's the neo-Nazis in Ukraine, like the Azov Battalion and others, but I also understand that most everyday people are not racist, everyday people are not with human rights violators. And this kind of situation only gives rise to more racism and gives power to these kinds of organizations to either receive more funding as that they are facing the Russian invasion, or receive more legitimacy for their human rights violations that we are hearing of in Ukraine every day.
Do you have a follow-up, Pasa?
Did you have a follow-up?
Go ahead.
Ube, a criticism I hear quite often is that the Palestinian people don't have the proper leadership. They don't have the proper government. Not since Yasser Arafat, have they had that leader that a lot of people talk about, that, which was a secular socialist type of movement moving forward. And then, the puppet government of Hamas was eventually started by Israel itself. What is your pushback to people who say that the Palestinian people need to come up with a government or a leader that's going to be effective for them to move forward peacefully with Israel?
Well, Palestinians, we have been calling out for general elections. Yes, we have our own dictator, Mahmoud Abbas, and he wouldn't be in power without Israeli support and US support to him. They have contributed to a enlarged security apparatus that's doing human rights violations and security coordination with Israel. And when you're talking that they are doing security coordination with Israel, you are doing that they are contributing to the human rights violations of the Palestinians. They are part of the system. Even today, when I contacted the US Embassy, they said it could be a number of reasons for you being denied travel. And one of them might be that PA has asked Israel for them to do that. This might happen, this might not happen, but when hearing that, you know that there's a deep level of complicitness. For us as Palestinians, we understand that there's no way forward without a democratically elected government, but the people that are keeping the dictators in place are the same people that have supported the dictatorship of Sisi in Masr or other dictators worldwide, globally. This is Western and foreign support for these dictators. And in our case, even direct Israeli support for this dictator. Even if you come out and look in the past summer, when we came out in the streets in Ramallah demanding justice for Nizar Banat, who was beaten to death by the PA security apparatus. And we were demanding democratic change through general elections that we have been denied since 2006 as Palestinians. And we've been demanding also since then the freedoms and accountability for the security apparatus that has assaulted women, men, especially focused even mass sexual assault against women activists in the street. While we were demanding these, the Israeli Minister of Communication came out strongly. Israeli, I'm talking about not the Palestinian. Minister of Communication came out strongly and said the PA should clean up the garbage in the streets of Ramallah. And when he was referring to the garbage, he was referring to us activists in the streets. 6 weeks after his this famous quote from the Israeli Minister of Communication, we have seen the designation come out after the first meeting of Abbas with Benny Gantz. So from our understanding is that without Israeli support, without Western support, US support to the security apparatus, the dictators of the Palestinian people could not have continued. And as for general elections, we are seeing that Israel is interfering in every kind of elections that we have. We just had municipal elections in the West Bank where Israel has interfered. They have summoned nominees for local municipal elections. They have arrested the nominees that have won or that were going to win. And they have threatened people that if they become active in the municipal elections, they will also be arrested. So this kind of system cannot continue without official Israeli and US support. So it's quite hypocritical when people come out and say that the Palestinians need a different leadership. We are trying to elect a different leadership, but with all the support that the current leadership is receiving globally, it's very hard for us to push for general elections.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I guess like one of my last questions is what do you think is going to happen when you have the US and NATO powers that are completely on the side of Israel, that completely don't recognize BDS, even some of the most quote unquote progressive members of Congress do not support BDS. And what is the end result then of this conflict that has been ongoing for decades and doesn't seem to be changing? And what can people do? And what is your plan to continue to just inform people about really what is happening? Because there's so little media coverage in general.
Look, from my part, the work that Wissam has been doing, I think we have been doing a good job. This is because we made the people in power very angry about us from all sides, from Israel and from PA dictatorship. So we hope to be able to continue our good work, exposing human rights violations, giving voice to young academics and scholars, and connecting them with the international academic and learning community. This kind of work, I think, is instrumental in building a global movement against apartheid, racism, and against human rights violations. We have seen politicians everywhere, even in the US, come under pressure from their constituents in order for them to take more progressive stances about Palestine. And it has become, I think, increasingly difficult, even for elected officials, even for ministers, to ignore the human rights violations in Palestine. A couple of years ago, if you were denied travel by Israel, it would not even have been a news piece. Today, you are given covered. This is something to talk about, and these taboos are being broken down. But still, I understand we need more activism, a long way to go, still to pressure for real concrete change. The only recipe the only outcome of the current recipe of the current status quo is more bloodshed for both Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. More human rights violations, more apartheid practices, and more global instability. I think Palestine is a focal point for a lot of people globally when they are seeing the situation in Palestine being so volatile. Human rights violations are not being addressed. People are not held accountable for their practices. I think this gives ways for much more instability on the global scale. The Biden administration has come with the agenda of ignoring what's happening in Palestine, which I don't think that this is the right approach. I think they should have at least committed to reopening the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem to serve the Palestinians. Even us as U.S. nationals, we have a gap in that. The access, the situation is not as before. And also, I think that the Biden administration should be pressured to make more progressive stances. Secretary Blinken said a couple of months ago that all people between the river and the sea should enjoy basic equal human rights, but we have not seen this statement translated into concrete actions. And this is what we are calling for, basically, to be held, everyone between the river and the sea, to be held to the same basic human rights as anyone. And today, this is not happening.
Ubay, last question for me real quickly, and we'll get you out of here. There's a lot of people that, you obviously have some people that are like pro-Palestinian and some people who are pro-Zionist, whatnot, in Israel and in the States. What is your pitch to those people who are on the fence, who don't really understand or know what's going on in Palestine as far as what Palestinians want?
Look, as far as what Palestinians want basic freedoms and basic rights. We want our ancestral land to be returned to us. We want the people, our families, to be reunited that have been separated by racist policies. We want dignity. If I want to put it in a large notion, simply dignity, human dignity. And if you believe that all humans deserve to have the same level of respect, dignity, then you should understand that Palestinians are demanding that Palestinians will not be silent while their rights are being violated, that Palestinians are standing up against the oppressor. But if you are racist, whether it was deep racism or was just white supremacist, etc., then you would not see Palestinians as human beings. You would not see us deserving the same basic treatment and equality as everyone else. Palestinians, even if I want to go back to the turn of the last century, when the Palestinians were under Ottoman rule, we came out and demanded our right to national and self-determination, which is the basic rights that is encharted in the UN Charter. That's the basic right that's recognized by everyone. But we are still demanding these basic things. We are demanding even look what the American people achieved in the 18th century, which is not even for all Americans, but the basic idea that you cannot have taxation without representation. This is what we are having right now. We are being heavily taxed. We are being subjugated. We are being dehumanized, and all of this without even gaining control of our own destiny and our own future. So when you're talking about the Palestinian cause, you're talking about dignity, you're talking about freedom, you're talking about the right to self-determination and the right of return.
Sounds like to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basic. It's very basic, and I think just more of what you're doing will shed a light on everything that's happening. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to talking to as many people as we can get on the ground. Thank you for your activism and for you're informing everybody on the situation. So happy to have you here. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ube.
Thank you again.
You deserve human dignity. We are fighting for you.
Thank you, and all the best, and all solidarity also with you in the States.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see here. Let me go back. Yeah, that was.
Damn.
It's basic. Some people want, a pony, and some people want basic human rights.
Is peace a chance?
Very, very interesting perspective there. I think Palestine is a small country that is, it's gotten smaller, right? It's complete. It's this is Israel's an apartheid state. Palestine is occupied. Israel's an occupation, but at the same time, there's like this idea of sovereignty, and I think that's why there's a lot of that sentiment with some people about Ukraine. But the U.S. and NATO are waging the same type of actions on Palestinians as they are on both Ukrainians and Russians. That's exactly what they're doing. They're using Ukraine to wage a war on Russia, and they're allowing Israel to continue to wage war on Palestinians. So this is part of Western hegemony, and it's all the same thing to me. It's all the imperialism of the West and their attempt to exert control over these areas that militarily and geographically are beneficial to them. So, yeah.
Good shit. And any opposing views that want to come on and you want to debate that, please reach out to us and we will consider it and see what we can do. Please. Game.film, thank you for the super great contribution. Keep up the great work. Still waiting for an emphatic, always appreciated on the couch from Fee.
God.
Fee?
We'll be waiting for a while.
What's wrong? You don't do tricks?
Fam, I can't even say that anymore because now you've colonized it. So now
colonized always appreciated on the couch. You are ridiculous. Ronnie Graham, thank you for the Super A contribution. I don't know if it's just Fee is so beautiful or the Convo Couch puts out the truth or Pasta is a private eye news guy. Love you, Ronnie Graham. Aww. Thank you, Ronnie, so much.
Thank you,
I think it's that Pasta's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah, Ronnie, you made a mistake. there.
Jalen High, thank you for the super rate contribution. It is always appreciated on the couch, fam. And Rob Juno coming in the door, brother. How you doing, Rob? We love you. Much love. Guys, Julie Love just sent me here from YouTube. Awesome. We love Julie Love. We love Rob Juno. Thank you so much for helping on out and joining us today. And thank you for that super rate contribution. Jeffrey Smith says, love you both, especially pasta. He didn't say
I don't even
pasta.
know. I don't know it's hard to tell. He's like the Ministry of Truth, Pasta. You know, he's pushing disinformation and misinformation. That's what he's doing. So, guys, you know, we talked about the Caleb and Mitt Press being banned by PayPal and GoFundMe being taken off of Mitt Press, and it's very, very terrible that this is happening. And this is happening too when literally the DHS just created this governmental disinformation board, fam. And they did this ahead of the midterm elections, and they're saying it's because they want to stop misinformation within immigrant communities. That's their excuse. Oh, we're trying to protect the immigrants from misinformation. That's what DHS goon Alejandro Mayorkas said. And what's been happening is a lot of people are calling this the Ministry of Truth. So this is what it is. So the Department of Homeland Security is creating a disinformation governance board. That's exactly what they're calling it, a disinformation governance board. And Oz, that is slide 25. And they're saying they're going to combat this misinformation, to combat the anything that comes out from the 2022 midterms coming up. And I think this was a long time coming, considering this. The Department of Homeland Security has issued a lot of several of these, issuances of labeling people violent domestic extremists. They've started, creating their own like little channels where they literally scour the internet to find people to report. But this happened 2 days after Elon Musk bought Twitter, right? This literally happened 2 days after that. So let's go to slide 27. And Alejandro Mayorkas said that Wednesday that the Department of Homeland Security is creating a disinformation governance board. And slide 28, Representative Democrat from Illinois, Lauren Underwood, cited reports that minority communities are being targeted in misinformation campaigns. And she asked what the Department of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, was doing to address it. And he said this board will be led by Undersecretary for Policy Rob Silvers, co-chaired with Principal Deputy General Counsel Jennifer Gaskill. And he said, quote, the goal is to bring the resources of DHS together to address this threat, adding that the department is focused on the spread of disinformation in minority communities. And so they also in another post, I think they were focusing too on Russia. They're saying they're focusing on misinformation and Russia. They particularly cited that as well. So Pasta, what I want to get to is the person that will be in charge of all of this, right? Because this woman is out of control. Now, as you can see, she's got the Ukrainian flag next to the American flag. So now you can tell that she's a real Ukrainian and American advocate. And she said, cat's out of the bag. Here's what I've found, or what I've been up to the past 2 months and why I've been quiet on here. Honored to be serving in the Biden administration and helping shape our counter and disinformation efforts. So Politico put this out there, and they specifically said DHS is standing up a new disinformation governance board to coordinate countering misinformation related to Homeland Security, focused specifically on irregular migration and Russia. Nina Jankowicz will head the board as executive director. She previously was, and let's look at her resume, right? She previously was a disinformation fellow at the Wilson Center, advised the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry as part of the Fulbright Public Policy Fellowship, and oversaw Russia and Belarus programs at the National Democratic Institute. There she is. There's her face. Slide 32. You can put her face up so people know what she looks like, because we need to know what she looks like. Okay. And then, so that tweet is there. We already did that tweet.
That's a good picture of her, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good picture of her. So
here's the scary shit.
Okay, so here is what she was up to on TikTok not that long ago. Okay, and props again. I have to give props again to Tucker Carlson for reporting on this, because a lot of people aren't talking about how serious this is. This is very serious. So let's just take a look at the very serious woman in charge of the Ministry of Truth.
Information laundering is really quite ferocious. It's when a huckster takes some lies and makes them sound precocious by saying them in Congress or a mainstream outlet. So disinformation's origins are slightly less atrocious. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. It's how you hide a little lie. When Rudy Giuliani shared bad intel from Ukraine, or when TikTok influencers say COVID can cause pain, they're laundering disinfo, and we really should take note and not support their lies with our wallet, voice, or vote. Oh!
They're laundering, fam. Laundering. We talking about it today. They're gonna come arrest us on the RICO Act for laundering.
Did you like her little tune to
Fragilistic?
Wait. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
You know, if the lyrics weren't so just god awful scary, then I would have thought it was like, that's clever.
Yeah.
But no, it's some scary shit there.
Hide a little lie. Hide a little lie. What the fuck? I'm so sorry. This is like, this woman is insane. Like, and she's in charge of this. They put this woman in charge of literally forming a government board where they get to decide if somebody is saying something they don't like, essentially. And I'm sure she
Whose
doesn't
job
like
is that,
anything
fam?
we say. Apparently, it's her job.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's the Department of Homeland Security and all these State Department goons' job, or the richest man in the world's job. It shouldn't be either of their jobs. It should be literally our job to decide.
Absolutely.
Yours and mine, and everybody watching independently, if they want to hear this. In fact, if she wants to put out this TikTok that I think is scary and like fascist and pro-surveillance state, she can do that, and we can do one mocking her, because we should. But we shouldn't be banning anybody and writing, this person is probably a Putinist RT person. Oh, here we go. Oh, we got Lee Camp over here. We have the Gray Zone. We have the Combo Couch. We have Jimmy Dore. I mean, this is what's going to happen. We got Caleb Muppin. Oh, that commie over there. Let's put him away. Like, this is where we're headed. This is not an exaggeration. Pasta, this is also what she said, and I want to hear your opinion on this. So she put out this tweet 2 years ago during the peak of the pandemic. She said, long story short, I think we as a country might be too free-spirited, to put it diplomatically, to comply with social distancing recommendations unless they're forced upon us. So force away, lock us down. People are not taking this seriously. This is who's in charge. The Ministry of Truth. I'm sorry, the Department of Homeland Security's, misinformation governance board.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Every day that every day that goes by, and I think that, okay, listen, when is this thing going to start like swinging back in our direction, meaning freedom of speech direction, meaning a society where people can speak what's on their mind as long as they're not inciting violence and whatnot. And at what point are they going to, are the dissenters going to be able to claim victory? But then we have news that comes out with Caleb Muppin, how they took away his PayPal and they're going after Mint Press. It just gets scarier and scarier. But the thing that really drives me crazy, I don't have my hat on, but fam, I'm a newspaper guy. And today was not a slow news day at all. I mean,
no.
This was the most loaded front paper ever. It had everything in there, from the $33 billion in Biden and what he was talking about and wanting and whatnot, which we'll get to eventually as well. And it also talked about, some vid stuff we'll get to eventually. But right here, fam, as a newspaper guy, Homeland Security forms panel to counter disinformation. And I'm just going to read the quick first paragraph because it's important to understand where we're coming from, that it's not news now. This is propaganda at the highest level. It's a coordinated effort. They're very synchronized. They're in step together. It says the Department of Homeland Security is stepping up an effort to counter disinformation coming from Russia, as well as misleading information that human smugglers circulate to target migrants hoping to travel to the U.S.-Mexican border. Also, to spread the disinformation can affect border security. And then they go on to talk about disinformation when it comes to the boop boop. Okay, so this is like mass psychosis formation that we're really witnessing here, because it is an all-out attack of propaganda against us, ladies and gentlemen. Fee got a different article. I have an article. It's everywhere. They do it together, and it really is a shame that people are being completely hypnotized by this thing, because we saw with Twitter the other day for the last couple of days, right? The fact is that I don't believe that anything's going to change with Elon Musk. I don't believe he is some free speech advocate. No way. I don't believe it at all. But the fact that people expose themselves that were justifying the censorship just because it was on their ideology or their team, this is some scary stuff. We are in a very scary place, and we need to do something, because pretty soon, with the way they went after Julian Assange, they'll come after any of us. Yeah. Any of us who has a dissenting voice, because it's not really about, stopping Russia or a bad man. It's them creating a boogeyman, splitting society, pitting them against each other, and then they are maintaining control. That's what this is about.
Yeah. And I mean, this is it. I keep saying this because, Orwell closely worked with the CIA, but Orwell, the everything he wrote is coming to fruition now. This governmental board of disinformation, or whatever the hell they want to call it, is literally there to promote propaganda and a narrative, just like the Ministry of Truth was in the book 1984. It stood for the opposite of what it said, right? It wasn't anything to do with truth. It was about propaganda and making sure that propaganda got out. Well, art imitates life imitates art, whatever you want to call it, right? But that's what's happening right now, is that that whole agenda of Big Brother and of having the thought police is coming true. This is the world we live in, where you can't even say certain things or you will get shut off YouTube, or if you say the wrong word not so long ago, you would get completely taken down, whether it was Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, any social media tech giant. And I don't think that's going to go away with Elon Musk, because the problem is our government. The problem is our system. The problem is we have very powerful people who need to have this narrative, their narrative, survive. And we are a threat to that narrative. So they're going to shut down the means of communication. And then if they shut down that communication, or if they vilify it to a point where dissent is now a crime, then you do descend into full-on fascism, right? You descend into this authoritarian, Orwellian, post-apocalyptic existence, where anything you say has to be a propaganda, or you will be put away. And that is what we're seeing made an example of with Julian Assange, which is why it's so important that you pointed it out, because that's this. I mean, everything is just coming to this, I think, this turning point, this peak that we're headed towards, the tipping point of where we're headed towards. Yeah.
And the thing about it is that they use this whole excuse that when they do censor somebody, it's to protect the public. No, they're only protecting themselves. They're protecting their power. They're not protecting you. Get over yourself.
No, yeah, and I don't want to be protected. I am well aware of what I think I can decide for myself.
Yeah.
If something,
and I'll protect Fee, nobody else. We don't need the government.
Fam, I don't know.
Look at the pugilism, fam.
Fam.
Assume the position.
So Max had a tweet out, right?
Facts.
Fax Blumenthal had one. Go ahead and read it in this video.
Okay.
That's what you put up, right?
Yeah. It's definitely that. Well, I asked you about it. I said we should really probably put this up because he just lays it out. It's it's fire. But fam, if you want to hear that supercalifragilisticus song again, I don't mind.
Oh, you don't want to play the video?
Of course I want to play the video. Thanks to Tucker Carlson for highlighting my response to the Pentagon and Big Pharma-backed censorship record at the News Guard rating, which is threatening to blacklist the gray zone news. I once believed liberals opposed state suppression of alternative media. Today, it's their agenda. And that's all it is. They weren't protecting free speech. They weren't protecting anything. They're always protecting their power.
Yeah, I mean, it is literally their agenda now. It's worse. It's gone backwards. I don't know what world we live in, but we live in a cartoon, I guess. Yeah.
Good, Oz, roll it.
We can reveal that Biden's Pentagon, another group with guns, awarded a $750,000 contract to a group called News Guard. Now, that contract is for misinformation fingerprints. News Guard is an organization that claims to fight, quote, misinformation, but in practice is a censorship organization, targets anyone who challenges the people in power. News Guard is currently preparing a blacklist of sites that contradict the national security state's talking points on Ukraine and Russia. So this week, News Guard wrote a threatening email to the news site Gray Zone, informing the Gray Zone that they're spreading, quote, disinformation because they're not reading the script. So here's how the editor of the Gray Zone, Max Blumenthal, responded. He wrote this: do you seriously expect us to grovel for approval from the same tentacle of the national security state and financial oligarchy that has rated CNN as a highly credible news source and whose board of advisors is a grotesque gallery of corporate propagandists, spooks, documented liars, war criminals who have never faced a scintilla of accountability for their actions? Kind of overheated language. Is it true? Yeah, every word of it. So when Joe Biden's censors come, that's the way you respond. Hey, pal, up yours. You want some disinformation? Here you go. You are a free person in a free country, and no law enforcement agency can ever tell you what to think or say, period.
Yeah, I mean, he nailed it. And I'm glad he mentioned Max because, I mean...
Yeah. Well, Max's letter back there was awesome, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, I this is ridiculous, and I mentioned the Daily Beast smearing of a bunch of people today, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's not journalism. It's propaganda. It's straight up just smear piece after smear piece after smear piece. And just wait, fam. Just wait, because they're gonna come after us too. Again, I'm sure. And
yeah. I mean, they just said they're going to create a blacklist for people who are talking against the State Department talking points on Ukraine and Russia. And when you read, as a newspaper guy, the bullshit they're trying to print up in this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they have to do this too because they have lost the propaganda war, right? All Putin has to do is sit back and kind of rely on the truth, right? And I know people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that. No, I mean, when RT or all these other channels show what's going on in Ukraine, they actually show what's going on in Ukraine. When MSNBC or CNN comes in, just like Matt Orfalia's video pointed out, it's just a bunch of people on boards of all these weapons manufacturers saying that we have to send more weapons. And at the end of the day, whose pocket does it come out of? You and I's. That's it.
Yeah. And so going along with this state that we're in, because we're really, really close to this iteration, right? We're really, really close to this. More than 30 years ago, fam, one of my favorite commies, and this is of course for Steve as well, because I know Steve loves Fidel. Fidel said, the next war in Europe will be between Russia and fascism, except that fascism will be called democracy. And of course, I can read it in Spanish for those of you who don't understand. Hace más de 30 años, Fidel dijo, la próxima guerra en Europa será entre Rusia y el fascismo, solo que el fascismo se llamará democracia. And guys, democracia. So what he's saying here is what we're seeing right now. Under the guise of democracy, of spreading democracy and humanitarian aid and caring about Ukrainians, you have Russia, right, fighting for its own sovereignty, because this is really for its own like survival. Because if Ukraine became a part of Europe, it would really just unleash just a set of events, a chain of events where it would just be, you have a bunch of neo-Nazis there. And yes, I know the vast majority of Ukrainians are not neo-Nazis. A lot of these people are stuck in between. They're told that if they don't support and fight for Ukraine, they'll be killed. They're tortured if they say anything that's slightly pro-Russian. So that is essentially what's happening. Russia is fighting fascism, but it's not just like the Nazi fascism. They're fighting NATO. They're fighting the West and the Western desire to pretty much create this global agenda. And whether you think, Russia's in on it or not, right now, that's in their way. They want Eurasia. They want these resources. They want that region. And I don't think some of these nation states are going to play ball. I don't think some of these leaders within the nation states are going to play ball. And so I do think that's what's happening. And what a visionary Fidel. Whatever you may think of him, he was right about this. And he did say this. I verified that he totally said this in a conversation.
Yeah, fam, he's a newspaper man, but just like me.
He's the newspaper man. Yeah,
I'm the
you're
newspaper
a guy.
We're like cousins. We got a lot in common, huh? Me and Fidel. I can get the cigar, get it out there, fam. So don't worry about it.
Fam,
all right, let me read a couple super rays real quick. We'll get right back into it, ladies and gentlemen. We have 2 more sections. We got one more on YouTube, and the last one, final one, will be on Rockfin only. So please get on over to Rockfin when you get a chance. Rob Nunez says, Pasta, don't stop being yourself. Steve and Fee knock you, but they have the charisma of a cardboard box. Ooh, sorry, Fee and Steve.
Did somebody actually say that? That's savage.
Rob Nunez says, I apologize for joking and talking shit. Fee, you are awesome as an adult in the room. You are 20 times smarter than I was at your age. You two are a great team, yin and yang. Rob Nunez, thank you for the Super Ray contribution, doubling on up. We appreciate it. And yeah, we knew you were just messing around. Fee and I mess around all the time. We don't take it personal. There's a lot worse shit going on in the world rather than our feelings when we joke around. Please.
To be fair, Pasta's charisma is just all relying on really bad dad jokes and like being extra about everything. But sure, let's give that one to him.
Please. Fee knows I got charisma. She can hate all she wants. She knows I got charisma. Aaron, thank you for the Super Ray contribution. Maybe this is a reflection of my previous greater degree of ignorance on history. But a previous criticism of Yasser Arafat and the PLO is that they never wanted to establish a country because setting up a country and governing are extremely difficult and very different than what the PLO were good at, which was fundraising, publicity, and insurgent activities. While this may be spilled milk, is this true? I don't know about some of that stuff. I would like to talk to somebody who's got a little bit more information when it comes to that. But I do know this much, that Yasser Arafat's goal when it came to developing a government was to have a singular secular government. You know what I'm saying? A socialist government. It wasn't really a theocracy whatsoever. And to do so, Israel had to combat that. So then they created Hamas. Ron Paul talked about this on the floor of the Congress. So, I mean, I think there was a lot of fuckery back then. When you're going to create an entity like Hamas because you want to get this radical kind of type of a faction that's going to push back against the PLO, you can only believe so much that you hear, AREM. But that is an interesting question. I am not an expert in it. I do know a few things, but yeah, we'd like to probably talk to somebody a little bit more about the PLO and what it was meant to be and how it was run and whatnot. I just know Yasser Arafat on the global stage was great. So, I mean, it seemed like there was hope when he was there. And I know he was loved by the Palestinians. So, Misha Key, Thank you for the super great contribution, fam. It is always appreciated on the couch.
So now you're like a Russian?
No, but the combo couch has turned into the Gomez couch. He's taking claim of it, fam. I have no say. Gomez is now, invaded and taken over and seized the couch. It's been seized by Gomez.
He's colonized the couch, man.
Gomez has colonized the couch.
The colonized
white
couch.
dog.
All right.
All right. So this section shouldn't be a long section. It should be an entertaining section. It should be an interesting section. I like to do this stuff every once in a while. We kind of get out there and throw some, ideas into the wind, because there are two opposing views on this. And once again, I think a lot of the goals of the ruling class is to make sure that we always stay divided, that we fight each other and don't come up with solutions. We just kind of use the cancel culture thing to say they're racist, they're fascist, they're stupid, they're commies, and we don't talk and we don't come to some conclusions. So the question I have here is student loan forgiveness. Why yes, and why others say no? And really, I want to talk about what can be looked upon as maybe a leftist view versus a conservative view and whatnot. So let's talk about it. But I want to set the table about what's going on. Okay.
So just like full disclosure, I have zero clue how you could say no. So I'm just gonna.
No. I don't think they don't say no. I think that their issue is not addressed and it's not one-sided. So let's talk about it real quick, and we'll get into this, because I don't think it's a yes or no. That's the problem. But you can give me your opinion.
I think it is, but
as we get into this. Well, I don't. Okay. So I don't whatsoever, and that's why I think that we're never on the same page of this stuff. But that's why we have these discussions. So the White House press secretary Jen Psaki is now holding her daily briefing. This is from The Guardian the other day. I pulled this, whatnot. A reporter kicked off today's questioning by asking about student loan cancellation. Joe Biden said earlier today, I am not considering $50,000 in student debt reduction, but I am in the process, fam, of taking a hard look at whether or not there will be any additional debt forgiveness. Asked whether the White House has concluded that Biden can cancel student debt via executive order, Psaki replied, there's been no conclusion of any process internally yet. So they don't come out and just say no. They kind of leave it hanging, because they understand they have a lot of supporters that when they were going to get Joe Biden in, this is the thing, right, fam? They're going to push him left. The president said today that he would provide an update on his student debt policies in the next couple of weeks, fam. Progressives have called on Biden to cancel all federal student debt, but Biden has signaled opposition to that proposal. Then a couple minutes right after that, a reporter asked Jen Psaki, this is on slide 46, the White House press secretary about the expected timeline for Congress approving the requested $33 billion in Ukraine aid, as well as additional pandemic response funds. I'm not here to set new deadlines, but I can tell you that both needs are urgent, Psaki said. Psaki underscored the crucial need to provide Ukraine with more resources as it fights off Russian attacks more than 2 months after the war begun. We've been giving them money ever since 2014. We upped the antes when the war started, when the invasion or military or whatever you want to call it started, in order to continue to help assist them, help make sure they have the weapons they need, the artillery they need, the equipment they need. It's certainly currently urgent to move forward on this funding, Psaki said. And fam, it's just ridiculous that, and we have it right here, as I am the newspaper guy, fam. It is right here in the head section today. Biden requests $33 billion, fam, more for Ukraine to the Congress. Hundreds of billions have gone out the door. There are people who are suffering and struggling. Students who are young students who just graduated in debt, crazy amounts of debt to pay. It's nothing compared to the college education bills that were there 40, 50 years ago, when our grandparents or our mothers, and some of us, the older people out here, they could pay their year worth of college on a summer job. So pretty much you work a summer job every year of your college. By the time you get out of college, you're most out of debt. That doesn't happen now. Now, according to a lot of actuaries, you need 17 of those summer jobs, 17 to pay off that debt. Something I want to point out, slide 47, Sputnik, our good friend Wyatt Reed, who's yelling out there, won't shut up. Polls show support for Biden plummeting throughout U.S. as youth approval hits a record low. So, fam, he's saying no right now. He's not really making a move on it. Maybe in the next few weeks, he'll tell you how he's feeling through the thought process. But Ukraine needs money. Let's get it out the door. Let's get it out the door right away.
Yeah, that's so I don't understand. I don't understand then at this point how you can argue against student debt relief, because you don't just have kids that are getting out of college in debt. You have full-blown adults. You have people in their 40s. You have people that are older in student debt, because that's millennials now. Millennials, the oldest millennials are like now 40, just so you guys know. So you have people that have never been out of debt since they've been in college ever. And so you have an entire economy of people that are coming up into society and do not have the means to own property, don't have the means to have a family, and that affects everything else. If you live in this, because we do live in this capitalist system, so that affects everything else. So if you want America to be better and more productive, and you want capitalism to work, guess what? You need to subsidize. It's essentially subsidize an entire generation that has had to pay inordinate amounts of money for an education that wasn't even good. Because the vast majority of things that you learn in college are completely irrelevant, because a lot of it has, unless you're, dealing with mathematics and maybe some quantum physics or something that is very A+, B = C, then it really, everything else that, you learn is a lot of it is propaganda. And so they've made education into this business, just like everything else, because that is the system we live in, but it's not working out. And you have people who have money who are not in debt or chose the right profession, and they're like, well, I already paid it off, so I don't want somebody else to come in and have it easier. No, like that doesn't make any sense, because if you did pay it off, now somebody else doesn't have to. You pay it forward. That's how things work. Even if you want to pick yourself up by your bootstraps and you want to work, you can't literally work 17 jobs. You can't. You can work 3. You can work 4. I've seen people work up to 5, but 17, that's quite a lot. And that's a little ridiculous, especially when you have the contrast of how much money is given to stupid shit that doesn't matter, to the funding for the, what was it, like the CARES Act, all the bullshit that was in there, the funding for the for the weapons manufacturing, the funding for bullshit pet projects that are in there in every single fiscal year bill. Like it's fucking ridiculous. So there's really, to me, no valid argument to be made. If you want to say, well, we don't want the government to control education, sure, then maybe find another means of education. But if people want to be educated with whatever they have, make it public. And by the way, if it's public and you have some sort of say in it because it's public, then you're not going to have these elitist schools only spewing this certain neoliberal intellectualist agenda. Then you're going to have more people of a variety of subjects seeking to learn XYZ.
Well, let me just give you my opinion real quick as we play these two we show up these two tweets. But first off, I think that, like you said, making more public funding education in the first place is the most important thing, right? Like, fix the system itself. The fact that it is 17 times the price and it's ridiculous, and everybody knows who has student loans, they're strapped down with them. It's ridiculous what they're doing out there. The money is beyond what it used to be to get a college education in this country, and that is a serious problem. So here is the tweet, really quick, that was put up. It says, Cassie Dillon, she says, I just worked my butt off to pay my very expensive student loans a few months ago. If Biden forgives student loans, I'm going to be livid. So then we have Keith Olbermann going, the lesson of this Cassie Dillon person's tweet is that only she and no one else matters. Yet she asked us to set aside our own interests and worry about her becoming livid. And that has been an argument for a long time from some people on the other side of the aisle.
Yeah.
So here is my tweet, and here is what I am suggesting, and I'm going to stick by this right now because this is how I feel. How about we address both points of views? Maybe we find a way to forgive current student debt while compensating some of the cash people like Cassie Dillon paid off for her student loans. And don't tell me we can't pay for both of it, because we are handing out billions to Ukraine for weapons, fam. So that is my personal point of view. And I'm going to say that this is something we've never looked at before. If we have the money to do both, why not do both? Why not?
I don't have a problem with doing both at all. I have a problem with that mentality. And it's something that I can't change. I can't change that person's mentality where it's like, well, I got screwed, so I want everybody else to be screwed. That's like a fundamentally different way of thinking from like just the way you view the world. And you're right. We can't change Cassie or Casey, whatever the hell her name is, right? Like, yeah. And I think that is a good solution to some of those people who really, who feel like they need that. I think, I think some people probably did work their butt off to pay it, but I think a lot of people just have it easier too. And like, there's going to be that whole contention where it's going to be like, well, does a rich person get their whole blah, blah, blah? I don't give a shit anymore. I don't give a shit. As long, if you want to pay, if somebody paid off like, $100,000 in student loans by working through their job, do I think they should get some compensation? Hey, whatever. If it makes it easier for everybody to get student debt relief, do it. I don't care. I mean, right now, these are just little band-aid solutions because we're in a system that's obviously not working. It's literally about to collapse. It is collapsing, actually. And but I think if we can do anything for people, we can at least alleviate a couple of things. And to me, that's, access to medicine, and it's access to not having this gigantic burden over your shoulders where, wow, the best your country could do for you is literally say, well, we're not going to charge you interest during the pandemic. Congratulations. Like, really? Like, you're not even guaranteed a decent job when you get out of college at all. Like, this is, I mean, there are people out there who are entering the workforce now who are getting paid less than people did 15, 20 years ago. And that is a fact. And there are people who are now, switching jobs or finding new jobs that are getting paid the same amount they got paid when they started. So this is not a joke. And so when you have student debt on top of that, you don't have a flowing economy. You don't have a free market. You have literally a stagnation of what it is. Whether you're a capitalist or a socialist, it's not fucking working at all.
Yeah. I mean, well, the argument is that too, is like, if we pay off their student debt, now they're going to have money. They're going to be able to invest that back into the economy. And that's a good thing. Well, that same thing goes for those people who paid off those student loans. And we don't know what those people's lives are or whatnot. A lot of them. Yeah, there's a lot of people who have a lot of money, but there's people who probably said, oh, listen, I'm going to take the priority of paying off what I owe on my student loans over maybe starting a business or moving over here or doing that over there. So if it's also that we give these people some advantages who in their mind did the right thing and paid off their student loans, why shouldn't we be able to compensate them too as well? The money is there. And that is a way you sell the issue to both sides. It's like, okay, well, those who did pay off your student loans, we're going to find something for you where you can also now invest in the economy as well. So I don't think we can solve this issue unless we look at it from both sides. And this is a way of looking at it at both sides. The argument will be that the money is not there, but we know the money is there. We know it's there. So that is, to me, this is my approach to the situation. And once again, I don't chastise or demonize anybody who has that attitude like Cassie. Do I agree with it? No, but she does have a point. She does make an argument there. I know a lot of people who have said in a nice way, it's like, hey, listen, I'm very happy that I was in a position to pay off my student loans, but I don't have a lot of money in the bank now. I don't have a lot going on. Don't I deserve some form of compensation if we're going to give compensation to people who have that outstanding debt? I think there's an argument to be made there. And if we can take care of both sides, maybe find a way to do something for some people who've already paid off their student loans where we give them some type of governmental grant to go start a business or something. I don't know. But the heads can get in the room and we can find a way to address all people's needs on this issue. That's my personal belief.
I don't think it's a bad belief at all. I don't see a problem with it. I still think it's, at the end of the day, though, I don't really see it as any different than saying, the goal is the same, is to alleviate the debt. You're just saying people who've already paid it should be compensated. And I don't think that's a bad idea at all. I think that's a great idea.
Well, thank you. That's my idea, and I'm sticking to it. Holy shit, guys. You see what fam did? Wow. Thank you. All right, fam.
I thought you were going to argue against like paying student debt. You're arguing in favor of it. You're just saying, actually, people need more money. So I don't have a problem with it. Like, yeah, you made it sound like you were like against it, which is not the case at all. So,
well, I think what happens is that, listen, that's Keith Olbermann, right? Keith Olbermann's a jerk off. He acts that way to everybody. But I know a lot of progressives who act that way too as well. Oh my God, so you have yours paid off and you can't help other people? Well, what's wrong with you? And that person just
from that. But it comes from that thought process where we're I mean, I'm not, a progressive like those idiots are, but it comes from that, like, how it's a different way of thinking, that it's an emotional reaction, because you're like, how this isn't a very humanist way of looking at it, but fine. If it's gonna make somebody agree to having student debt forgiveness, I really don't care. Like, I think that's
it's all I care about is the results, anyways. Too.
We can't change how she feels.
Yeah, I think through that those actions, she might see it. Like, if it's something like, well, if I get my money, if you get your money, then of course I do, and then they'll be like, okay, well, you know what? This is good for everybody. Yay! Now you see it. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, at the end of the day, all I care about are the results. I don't care about anybody's feelings. I just care that we get shit done. And I want everybody to have the burden of student debt that's on their backs lifted. It's our tax money. It's our dollar. It's our system. We can't take care of our own people here. We can't do it.
No, but Ukraine's going to get healthcare and student debt relief before we do. But I don't even want to put people against Ukrainians. That's not even the goal. But like, a lot of people are starting to see it that way. They're like, what the hell? Same with Israel, right? Israel has healthcare. Like, where the hell? And they get to continue doing what they're doing, and we don't have healthcare. I mean, it's the same type of mentality.
Yep. All right, guys, this is going to be the last section. Let's get on over to Rockfin right now, ROKFIN .com/the Convo Couch, or we can just put the link up really quickly in the chat, which I will do really quickly. Jilly Love has been sending people over. Keep sending people over. Jilly Love, we love you. And here is the link, guys. So you can grab it right now. There's Jilly Love right on top of me and Jilly Love. We love Jilly. Guys, we'll go over. What's that?
Just said Jilly.
Jilly
Love.
By the way,
we can show the title.
Yeah, but can you go back to slide 49 1 second? I want to put this tweet up one more time. Guys, if you have any opinions about what we just talked about, and fam, I would like to make more tweets that, when you do your tweets in where people can go and leave opinions when it's part of the show, you guys let me know your feelings on this right now. I haven't been able to dive into the chat as much. I've been engaged with Fee, so I will go back and look later. But you guys let me know. What do you think about the idea? If you think it's a bad idea and that we need to just take care of the people in debt, tell me why. If you think we shouldn't do it at all because it's not fair or for whatever reason, tell me why. If there's maybe another way we can obtain this and have something like this happen where the majority of the people agree, tell us why. I want to know. Educate me. I am always open to be educated, just the way fam is always educated, is being open to be educated by me. I'll do the same for you. Okay.
You see, guys, he pokes the bear.
And fam is the bear. Guys, let's go to the last section over here real quick. I'm just going to put this up really quick, what we're talking about. I am not going to play one clip on YouTube, so you got to get on over to YouTube too. But the title of the section, Oz, you can put on up. I put it in red. Russian.
Red for
Russian. Moderna seeks okay from the FDA to boop the children. We're going over to Rockfin only. We'll see you in 5 and 4. Now she wants to be my wife. 3. a 2,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
1. Yes!